This video will show you how to replace the coolant reservoir on a GMC Sierra 2500. This will be mounted along the passenger side of your engine compartment. Let's get into it. Okay friend, let's get started on our job. We are going to be opening our cooling system, so of course we want to make sure everything's cool to the touch. You never open the cooling system when anything's hot. Now with that said, along the top of our coolant reservoir, on the passenger side of our engine compartment, we're going to open up our coolant cap. Keep in mind there could be pressure in the system. We have hand and eye protection at all times. Go ahead and remove that cap and we'll set it aside. Once we have the coolant reservoir cap out of place, the next thing that we have to do is remove as much coolant from inside of the reservoir as possible, because we're going to be removing our coolant hoses and eventually that reservoir. With that said, I'm going to be using a small coolant extractor, and of course we're going to be recycling all of our fluid properly. Now at this point, we've removed as much fluid from inside the reservoir as possible. Let's start with removing the upper coolant hose from this area here. To remove this hose, you're going to find that you have a squeezable clamp. We're going to squeeze the clamp. We should be able to slide the hose off of the reservoir. Of course, a quick inspection and we'll set it aside. We'll just make sure that hose is soft and pliable, not torn, worn, or damaged in any way. The clamp is still in good usable order. We'll set that hose aside. Now before we remove our next coolant hose, I always like to dislodge my air filter housing, so I have plenty of room to gain access to my hose and one of my mounting points. With that said, up along the top of the air filter housing, we have our mass airflow sensor. We're going to squeeze in on the locking tab and we'll pull this out of place. A thorough inspection for corrosion. I don't see any there. This looks good. We're going to set that wiring aside. Continuing on, we're going to remove the inlet hose from our upper air filter housing. We have an 8mm headed clamp. On this clamp, you can also use a flathead screwdriver if necessary. Now we can take hold of the air filter housing. We're going to be removing the upper housing and the lower housing at the same time. For this, we're just going to carefully grab onto it. We should be able to wiggle it around and lift it up and out of position. Just have a quick look at the bottom here. This is where we can see that we have two mounting tabs. We'll set that aside. Now with that out of the way, we have a clear view of our lower hose and one of our mounting bolts. Let's start with the hose. Same with the other hose. We're going to squeeze the clamp. We'll slide this out of place. A quick inspection and we can set it aside. Now keep in mind there could still be coolant in this area. We have our collection receptacle under here so we can collect and recycle all fluid as necessary. There we are. That hose feels good. We'll set that aside. I've sprayed this with penetrant. Let's use a 10mm to remove our mounting bolt. Just going to work this back and forth since it is extremely rusted. We'll clean our hardware, give it a thorough inspection. For now, I'm just going to set it aside. Now that we have the forward piece of hardware out of place, let's make our way into this area, just in between where our battery, our coolant reservoir, and our fender is. In this area, you're going to find that you have a 10mm mounting nut. With both pieces of hardware out of position, the next thing we have to do is take hold of the reservoir. We're going to lift it up and away from the vehicle. One thing to note is that you will have a mounting point on the fender of the vehicle. We're going to have to slide this out of there. There it is, friend. Prior to installation of any brand new part, let's make sure we clean and inspect our mounting areas. We're going to start along the fender area. We have the mounting slot. We also have a mounting stud here where we had our mounting nut. We're just going to give this a quick wipe, a close inspection. Doesn't look like it's rotted or weak. We can make our way over to the next mounting port where we had our mounting bolt. For this, I'm going to clean it down using a wire brush. After cleaning these areas, we'll use some anti-seize. I'm going to apply a small amount next to my mounting port here for my mounting bolt. And then we'll apply some on our mounting stud, close to the battery tray. Now it's time for installation of our brand new coolant reservoir. Before we bring this into position, let's just have a quick look at the reservoir itself. We have our alignment tab, which slides into the fender. And then, of course, we have our mounting port, which is going to slide over the stud. We're aligning it with the fender first. Mounting stud. We'll tap that down into the proper positioning. Once you do have it into the proper position, you should find that your mounting bolt port aligns as well. Now I've cleaned the threads on my mounting bolt. We can start that in by hand here. Now typically I would start in both pieces of hardware before tightening anything, but of course on the other side we do have a stud and I already know I'm over it. So since I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and snug this up. Now that I have that tight, let's make our way over here to where our mounting nut would be located. Now we can install our mounting nut. We'll carefully reach down into this area, get it started onto the mounting stud. Once you have it started on, go ahead and snug it up. Let's take hold of the reservoir. We're going to give it a wiggle, make sure it does not move out of place. We'll continue on to our lower hose. We're sliding that all the way up to the reservoir and reattaching our clamp into the original positioning. A quick note about this is you need to be able to see hose on each side of the clamp, otherwise it's not properly in place. Use our pliers for this. Once you have it in place, attempt to slide it out of position. It should not slide off of here. If it does, the clamp might be damaged in some way, and if that's the case, you're going to want to replace it. This feels fine, so let's continue on. Before we install our air filter housing, let's make sure we clean and inspect these two grommets here. I'm just going to give them a quick wipe. We'll wipe down this plate as well. Make our way over to this grommet. Now, as far as this third grommet, we do not have to worry about this. Everything looks good here. Let's continue on with our installation. Now, as we start bringing the air filter housing down into place, we need to make sure we have it properly aligned with the rubber grommets that we just finished cleaning. We're going to press the securing tabs down into those grommets. This might take several attempts. It's fairly difficult to see down underneath this. Once you have it pressed into place, we're going to continue on with our air inlet tube. Press that onto the air filter housing as far as possible. We'll continue on with our clamp. Once you have the clamp tight, make sure the air inlet tube does not slide off of the air filter housing. We'll continue on with the mass airflow sensor connector next. As for the mass airflow sensor electrical connector, we have the locking tab that's going to be facing up. We'll press it in, listen for an audible click, give it a tug, make sure that's secured in place. Now it's time for our next coolant hose up along the top of the reservoir. We'll slide this hose into place, pressing it on there as far as possible. Make sure it's secured using its clamp. Now, just as with the other hose, we want to make sure we can see hose on both sides of the clamp, and we do want to make sure it's secured in place. That does not slide off of there. Let's remove our overflow cover. We'll set that aside. Now it's time to fill the coolant reservoir. When we fill this, we're using the manufacturer's specified coolant. You can also use universal if necessary. Now, one thing that I would mention, when you go to fill the coolant reservoir, we only want to fill up to the coolant maximum line. You do not need to fill it all the way up to the top. There needs to be room for expansion. Start adding coolant. Now, as you can tell, I filled the coolant up to my maximum line. For good measure, go ahead and start the vehicle. Let it run and get up to normal operating temperature. Once you've done so, have a quick look along this area. Add as needed. Once you've completed that, go ahead and remove the coolant funnel and reinstall your cap. Okay, let's get this off of here. We have our coolant cap. sure that's nice and tight. Clean any mess in the area. We finished running the vehicle, cleaned our mess. Now the next thing we have to do is just double check for leaks. We're going to close the hood and take the vehicle for a road test. Thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.